Welcome to Networking Field Day Experience at Aruba Atmosphere 2023.
Hi, my name is Jared VanAllen. I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances with Ventev Infrastructure.
And I'm Tom Hollingsworth. I'm the event lead for wireless and mobility here at Tech Field Day. Now, Jared, we're here because this is the annual user-facing conference that Aruba has, talking about all the cool stuff that's going on. And I know that Ventev has been a big partner of HP Aruba in the past. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that you guys have been doing to help kind of make things a lot nicer for users, a lot more usable. What are you guys here talking about?
If you want to drop by the booth, we'll be talking about several of the different products we have specific to the RPSMA/Aruba environment. So we'll be talking about our warehouse antennas, our newer tri-band antennas. Virtually every one of the going forward wireless antennas, Wi-Fi antennas we build will be tri-band to include the 6 gigahertz spectrum. In addition to that, we'll be looking at our ceiling tile and other enclosures specific to some of the newer generation of access points. We'll also talk a little bit about some of our new floor tile solutions, raised floor solutions that we spoke about in our last conversation. So if you recall, those allow us to mount access points and or antennas in a floor tile. And in one case, we can actually take the access point, place it under a floor tile, a standard floor tile with specific cutouts that allows the 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz spectrum from the floor tile to cover from ground up as opposed to a top-down approach to wireless. So we'll be talking about those, and we also have a new femto patch antenna coming out that's even smaller than our existing femto patch antenna that will be a tri-band antenna in RPSMA. We also have a new version of our junction box antenna that you're familiar with for the 6E, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E spectrum with the 6 gigahertz as well.
So Jared, I know that a lot of companies have been talking to us about the value of moving to a Wi-Fi 6E deployment, and there's a lot more spectrum that's available and things like that. Why would a company want to deploy all this brand new spectrum that's completely free and clear, but be very specific about where they're putting their antennas? Because like you said, the floor tile antennas kind of have a very specific pattern. Your femto antennas are very focused and directional. Why would I care about that?
There are specific instances where I need to implement wireless that aren't necessarily covered by an omnidirectional antenna. For example, if I'm sitting in this room we're in right now, and I need to be able to separate information from one side to the other, I need to be able to use a directional antenna to specify the physical area where I want to receive and transmit radio waves for that wireless connection. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, the question that I have there is, I know that there's a lot of conversation with the FCC about having antennas attached to radios that are 6E capable, 6 gigahertz capable, and there's some questions about, can I turn this on yet? Can I is it ready? Is it actually broadcasting? What can you tell people at home about that?
In the US, it's not currently ready for external antenna access points. The FCC has yet to approve the Wi-Fi 6E spectrum for external antenna access points. Thus the reason that we've brought out specific implementation scenarios for the internal antenna access points. However, we will be prepared the minute the FCC allows for the utilization of that spectrum by external antennas. So we're prepared to do that, and our entire Wi-Fi product line will be a Wi-Fi 6E capable for that 6 gigahertz spectrum as we continue to roll that product set over.
And I'm assuming because Ventev is considered to be one of the experts in antenna technology, that you've done all the testing and you know everything there is to know about how this is going to impact certain types of materials in your environment and stuff like that. So when the FCC does give the go-ahead and you're ready to do all the tri-band stuff, it's just going to be as simple as flipping the switch and getting everything connected and being ready to go, correct?
Precisely, right. I don't have to replace my antennas. I don't have to do any of that. I simply have to follow the FCC guidelines per the manufacturer of the access point and turn on that spectrum at that point.
Great. Now I know that a lot of people kind of focus on the access points that either are in the floor or the ceiling, being able to get my iPad or my iPhone or my laptop on there, but that's not the biggest growing category of wireless devices. I know that when it comes to things like IoT, there is a huge market out there for people who are trying to bring on not only small sensors and maybe even slightly larger devices, but even larger, manufacturing floor systems and things like that. What are some of the things that Ventev has been working on to kind of help that transition into an IoT ready future?
Wow, that's a complex question. So When we look at traditional Ventev product sets, it's usually held around everything required to implement wireless infrastructure, whether that's CBRS or DAS or private LTE, like with our mobile GNSS, Wi-Fi, LTE style kind of all-in-one antennas. That's usually where you've seen Ventev. And then power systems to support wireless implementations. Several years ago, we decided that we needed to be working within the industrial product set because that's where a lot of our products are used. We've worked with several manufacturers, including Aruba, to come out with a single SKU solution which allows us to implement their industrial networking product set, the CX4100i product set, which is really Aruba's foray into that industrial networking. Now, the advantages of Aruba, of course, are their fabric network infrastructure, their CX infrastructure, which flows over, and there are other specific advantages in terms of security profiles, things of that nature, which you can use like with ClearPass and some of the other security products that go along with Aruba. In this case, what we provide is a powered enclosure in a single SKU, which allows you to implement that CX4100i. So it's 8 ports of PoE plus, 4 ports of 60-watt PoE, right? So I can power those power-hungry cameras everyone wants to put in right now. And in addition to that, it provides some specific functionality in the UPS environment that's very unique to Aruba, all right? So if I take a standard manufacturer's switch in the industrial product set, and I allow that to move from standard power supply to UPS, right? In most instances, I just use up the UPS with all my ports until my power dies. The CX4100i has a very unique feature. So what we're able to do with the CX4100i is that as it moves from standard power to UPS, it actually has the ability to prioritize ports to say, hey, this is on a very important piece of machinery, don't shut this one down first. Shut all this other stuff we don't need over here down, right? And so I can prioritize traffic so that the very last thing to go down is the very most critical thing in my industrial IoT infrastructure. So it allows me to implement that and kind of put it in and forget about it.
I like that because having been involved in these kinds of situations in the past where I needed to, say, I really don't want this thing to ever go down, but over here I have this camera that's just going to eat all the power I throw at it and I really can't modify it because it's a simple IoT device that's just beaming traffic back. I can proactively say, okay, in the event that we go to battery backup, let's lose the camera immediately because I no longer care about that because I know I've got an outage problem that I'm gonna have to deal with. And under no circumstances should this be anything going down until it's absolutely necessary. And that way I can make sure that I've allocated my UPS and all that other power equipment properly so that I don't have to worry about oversizing it and throwing extra battery out there because I don't have a way to control that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that love to have that kind of priority system in place simply because it gives them a lot more control than they might otherwise have been able to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other benefit to that is that I selectively determine, you see, this UPS system holds that switch up for about 50 minutes to an hour with a lead acid environment, right? So if I then take those connections that I don't really need and hold them off, I can also extend the battery life somewhat. It's very important to be able to determine that in an industrial product and an industrial manufacturing situation, as you know yourself.
Right, because they've basically built the specs into this system to say I have this much uptime on this device, which is my mean time to get things back up and running from a scenario, and I have SLAs with my generator company or my electric power company so that I can get those things back online if it's a milling machine or some other kind of large piece of equipment. And I know for a fact, I have 58 minutes until I need to do something about this.
Exactly, exactly. The other thing that does is assure that if you have to roll a truck, you've got adequate time to do that and hopefully not get into too much trouble for what's trying to turn off on that switch as it powers down.
Exactly. And you said that this is all in one enclosure. There's the power and everything is all there. What I need, all I have to do is order this part number from Aruba and then I'm ready to go with whatever I need to do with it, correct?
From Ventev, yes, but it includes the Aruba product in it, right?
That's nice.
So it includes the power supplies, it includes the CX4100i, and the way that it's built, Tom, is that it is built with The primary use is lead acid batteries, although we do have a lithium option. We can talk more about that. I have the lead acid batteries. I have a charge controller. I have push style terminals, so implementation is easy and secure and doesn't wear out my terminals, right? And then I have the power supply, and then I have a DC to DC converter, which helps me control the switch for those things that we just talked about, right? And then I have the CX4100i pre-wired into RJ45 IP68 connections. I hang it on a pole, I hook it up to AC power with 3 leads. I watch the lights go blinky blinky, which is a technical term you probably learned in your early days, right? Mm-hmm. So the lights go blinky blinky, they should blink green, hopefully, right? And then I want them to close the door, lock it, and stay out of there. Everything else is controlled through the RJ45 connections, and I control it as I would with any other switch using standard protocols, .1x control.
It also sounds to me like if I'm someone who's kind of trying to decide whether or not I want to deploy this, but I'm unsure of the environment that I'm deploying it in, by ordering this single SKU with everything included in it, I have a very specific known quantity of technology that I can deal with, and I can say, all right, if you just run the power in here, I'll take care of the rest because I've already accommodated for that.
Not only accommodated for it, but professionally engineered with our stamp-carrying electrical engineers and mechanical engineers in conjunction with the Aruba product engineers. So this is an engineer-to-engineer solution, and it is complete with that switch in it. And the only thing I have to do is connect up the AC terminals and make sure it comes on, mount it on the pole. That is all opposed to doing that on the ground. It's all done on the ground as opposed to doing that up on the pole, which is a challenge at 25 feet in the air.
Exactly, and that may require somebody to come in with specialized equipment that you're paying an additional fee for, and they're only available to do so many in a certain amount of time, and the more lead time you can give them to make sure that that's all done, and all you got to do is put it up there, plug it in, and be ready to go and move on to the next one. That means that you can reduce your costs for deployment as opposed to sitting there waiting on somebody to get something done that should have been done a while back.
Precisely. So there are a couple of different advantages. We also have a mounting solution to go with it, so I can hang different devices like backhaul radios or access points from the back of that enclosure. It's a NEMA 3-arc enclosure. It is cooled because those devices get warm, right? But it's NEMA 3R, so I can put that into most implementation scenarios, indoors or outdoors.
And I believe that, one of the things that you guys talk a lot about at Ventev is helping people understand that you can't just go out and stick things to a wall and hope that it works. You have to kind of control for environment, for dust, for sunlight, for a lot of other things that people who are used to hanging access points indoors may not understand. Well, the indoor facility in a manufacturing floor may be a little bit more hostile to technology than your average boardroom or your average office.
Yes, exactly. If I'm manufacturing automobiles, it's probably not the most conducive atmosphere for an indoor access point.
Yeah. So Jared, it sounds like there's a lot of information that Ventev has been putting together about why and how to deploy these devices and to make sure that they're being used effectively. Where can people go to learn more about all the research that you've been doing as well as the products that you've put together for them?
Good question. They can go to ventevinfra.com. They can go to ventevinfra.com/Aruba IoT, specifically for this Aruba product set. You can also find on ventevinfra.com all of the different products that are available for the Aruba access points. You can even search by the access point to determine what antennas, cables, connectors, enclosures, etc. might be required to implement them, which brings up a good point. Our business is pretty simple, Tom. If you buy an access point and a switch and a controller, what have you bought? You've bought an angry customer because you didn't buy everything else you needed to actually implement the product set. So that's where you go to get the product set that you need to actually implement those wireless networks.
Outstanding. Well, Jared, thank you for your time today. I sincerely appreciate it. I've learned a lot about some of the great stuff that Ventev has and how they're partnering with Aruba. If you'd like to see more information about that as well as other great stuff that's coming out of our event here, just check out techfieldday.com and search for Networking Field Day Experience at Aruba Atmosphere, or check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/techfieldday.